The first project in my school text is the drill index or drill size guide. Um, for this, I got a piece of material that I've had in stock for a while, and I'm just going to cut a little chunk out of that and go between the drawing they have and the instructions they have in the book, and also uh, kind of incorporated in what I've seen on that Lazy Machinist videos online too, with the link in the bottom. So the first thing, is just getting a piece of material here, and after I marked it out, I just went a little proud on it so I could make it nice and clean on the edges, and of course, take it to my favorite bandsaw here and just cut that piece off and get ready to start milling it. But alas, my milling machine and my vise are having some issues, and my vise will not open up more than 2.5 inches, and the piece of metal I have is just a little over that. So the first thing I need to do is actually fix my vise. So starting that back jaw has to come out. So it's a matter of getting those keyways out, and then unbolting it, and getting that out of the way so the front can come out. And once the front's out, then it's a matter of finding out to see what exactly is wrong on it. There's a few things under there it could be, but I have a suspicion it's that lead screw in there that's got a little damage from a project in the past. And of course, as I go here, it's a matter of putting everything back as I find them. You can see up top too, the keyways are kept in order, and all the other pieces are kept in order too. So when it comes time to put this thing back together, it will go back together the way it came apart. So the next thing here is there's like a lock-in washer kind of thing there that's threaded onto this as well as it has a set screw in it. So got to pull the set screw out of that, then just work this around a bit so we can get that part off. And from here on in, the next thing is to get that movable side of the vise out of there, and then we'll be ready to pull this thing right apart and see what's going on with the threads in there. When I did pull this thing apart, and it took a little bit of persuasion here to get it off the end, it was kind of gummy. But when I did pull this thing apart, I did notice some issues with the threads on there, and the solution, of course, was just to grab a file and clean that up a bit. Unfortunately, I thought that was the extent of it, and the thing went back together, and it did not fix the problem. How I eventually fixed the problem, taking it apart again, is I actually put that lead screw into an impact and drove it in from both directions, and it cleared itself out. This this grease I'm using to pack the bearing, it's nice. It doesn't smell at all, and I know a lot of greases out there, they're just rancid to use, but this has no odor to it at all. So next thing, getting the bearing packed and starting to get this thing back together. And this is the first time apart. And like I said, I thought I fixed the problem. I thought the problem was on that lead screw, but it wasn't. The problem was actually what that lead screw screws into. And on the one side, it would only go so far. Eventually, the other side, I did manage to get it to go through. I did this on, I think it's Saturday or Sunday afternoon, and actually getting a tap big enough to run through there was not an option at that time. Though luckily it did work, and a tap that size for that thread would have cost a fortune anyways. So, anyways, getting that on, getting the set screw in there, and next thing it's just getting the face on that rear vise. And when these things did go back together, and I trammed it on my milling machine, I did check to make sure after it was trammed, and I went off the permanent rear non-movable part of the vise to tram it, but then I trammed it off the front too to make sure it was parallel or close to parallel to the rear part of that vise. So the next part here is just to get that rear back in, and it's a done deal. So first thing, putting these screws in just to get it close to where it should be before pounding in the keyways, and I don't think that'd actually work. If it was, it'd just push everything apart anyway. So getting these in, leaving them loose, and then the next thing after that, just giving these things a little bit of a tap to get them in. And in hindsight, at this point here, I should have supported that vise a little better than just pounded the heck out of it. But At the time, that seemed like a logical thing to do, so that's what happened. Now, just finishing up getting the device together and going to throw it on the machine and hopefully get back to doing the project that I was starting to do at the beginning of this. Now, when I did get this back on the machine, and it was all good the second time. The next problem is on that machine, on the spindle, there was a little set screw in there, and the set screw guided the R8 tooling into the machine, and it went a little wonky on me, and it made it so the tooling was harder to get up in there and harder to secure in the machine. Until this point, almost the entire machine I had ripped apart. The only part I haven't ripped apart was the head of the machine, and that was next. The head came apart, and of course, the hammer's a great way to get the head apart. Actually, the hammer, there's a little retainer in there, and the hammer was just used to loosen that retainer off. And lo and behold, when the retainer got to the point where it was no longer being held, there was a spring under it, and that spring popped fairly good. Though I didn't manage to lose any parts, and I did manage to, after a while, figure out how the spindle did come out of there. A little bit to do with the top and a fair bit to do with the bottom as well. And taking it out, I figured, hey, be easy to put back in, but with that spring in there, that just wasn't the case. But eventually, I did get it done. Now on the pulleys, of course, there's a little set screw in there, and they needed a little bit of encouraging after the set screw even was out to get off there. It was a very snug fit on there. So there it is. You can see in the top left there the spring that was in there, and then below that there's the seal for the bottom of the spindle and the pulley for the top, and that's basically was all that's there. And in that one slot, that's where the little set screw goes. Got it done, got it back together, and now finally back to the project. Um, so I'm going to do this markup on my table. I blued the piece out, and the next step is, just getting everything set. In the drawing, they give you the first sets of numbers and tell you to add, I think it was 0.062 each time you go up on it. So very little math. You just got to adjust your dial a little bit each way. And that gives you from 1/16 all the way up to ½ inch for holes on this tool. And of course, after getting all the measurements I could on the horizontal done and flipped it over and did the measurements on the vertical as well. And after marking that all out, it did go back in. I decided to, being I had the extra material here, to make two of them. So that way, if one was really bad, I'd still have one that was acceptable. And I do have to say, there was a few mistakes done on this. Later on, you'll see I was doing all the holes on the drill press, and I messed up the third hole on each side. After the third hole, I started doing it on the milling machine, and the rest of them came out really good. Not too sure on the third. I think that just the tap or the punch here I was using didn't make a big enough indent for the drill to actually grab it. But like I said, the milling machine made short work of the rest of them. No point continuing on with the drill press when it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do, or I wasn't doing what I should have been doing. I guess can't really blame the drill press. It just moves the drill around. It was the operator that was deficient on getting the holes in the right place. So there you actually see the third one, or I think it might be the fourth one on each side of those, how much it's offset, and both are offset towards the bottom of the tool being made. So after this, it's just a matter of getting it cleaned up a little bit and getting it ready to start cutting it apart. To cut it apart, I set my horizontal bandsaw up in a or sorry, yeah, no, it's a horizontal bandsaw. Set it up in a vertical position and just started running the machine or the piece of metal through there very carefully. I've known too many people that run in bandsaws that have taken chunks out of their fingers by doing something like this and continuing to do something like this when it's very little bit of meat left on the material. I'm not overly worried at that point doing it, but you can see here when it's getting more and more to the point where it's going to jump through, it's a push stick being used there. And when I get to the end, anyways, you can see there's a little bit of jump there. So it's just a matter of realizing when it's actually going to cut through and taking off some of the pressure, just so it doesn't pull your hand into it. So there's the two pieces. They're ready. So basically, on Mark's YouTube channel, he's talking about this being a job for bench work, and I can see why. But if I had the opportunity, like at this point here, the material comes off so much faster, using machines than it does sitting there with a file. And in fact, at this point where I'm filing down, I, I wish someone would invent some kind of grinding machine that works on angles and has a battery, perhaps, like that thing in the back there. That would just be ideal for taking off some of this material. Um, and it did honestly get used a little bit to grind it down, but most of this was handwork. And the two of them are together there, so at the end of the day, they will be identical to each other on their shape. So after that, the next part, it was just marking the gauge, and then I bought a new chisel, this being it here, because I didn't want to cut up my old chisel, because on Mark's video, he talks about grinding the chisel down so it's like a razor's edge. And I bought a new one because I didn't want to break the old ones up, and after I bought it, I didn't want to grind it down either, so I used it as a regular chisel, and it was cutting really deep lines, so I couldn't do the exact thing, make the lines exactly as is. So you can see on a normal chisel or a normal drill how it is. This drill's been used and abused for a long time, and you can see the angle's nowhere close. So after a little bit of work on it, the angle did start to get closer. It was still round on the bottom. I'm leaving it that and fixing it right up after it gets dull again.